Well, you and me and millions of fans all over the world were certain that this was Black Widow, somehow linked with Loki's incredible journey through times. But the MCU is nothing if not tediously consistent at misdirecting us with its trailer stuff.
Our job as filmmakers, we feel, is to zealously protect the secrets of the movie so the people who want to have the fresh experience going to the theater can have it. So that's how we address trailers and alterations in trailers.
Hello, namaskar, welcome, swagatam. You're watching Tinsel Talk, where I share my opinions on the latest movies and TV shows. Episode 4 of the Disney Plus Marvel series Loki has aired. As I was watching it, it clearly felt visceral and altogether the best episode out of the 4 that have aired so far. But here is the thing, after brewing for a few minutes in my mind, the overall trope of the episode became apparent. Before I tell you what I mean, please be aware that although I'm not going to do a scene-by-scene analysis or breakdown of the episode, this video still contains some spoilers for the show Loki. The trope or the recurring theme that I was referring to is this: sometimes wrong paves its own way towards writing itself. I talked about this in my first Loki discussion video. In essence, I referred to how, as a villain in the first Avengers movie, Loki ensured his own defeat himself by catalyzing the formation of the team of Avengers.
It's funny, for someone born to rule, you sure do lose a lot. Might even say it's in your nature. Didn't the Avengers come together to literally avenge him by defeating you?
This trend is more common than you realize if you come to think of it. Like in WandaVision, in the finale discussion, I pointed this out. Wanda's adversary Agatha gave her all the information she needed to overcome her self-doubt and, more importantly, gave her the means to defeat her. In the movie Doctor Strange, when you think about the first interaction between Stephen Strange and Caecilius, he gave a speech about how Dormammu is a being beyond time, beyond death. That was essentially the point that Doctor Strange exploited to bargain with Dormammu and defeating Caecilius.
A world beyond time, beyond death, beyond time. Strange!
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
And how can any discussion of MCU villains be complete without the mention of Thanos? When you think about it, his defeat was ingrained in his very nature. He was not evil at all. That is why, despite having multiple chances, he did not kill any of the Avengers unless he had absolute need to, leaving them alive to regroup and plan to defeat him. That Thanos from the original timeline thought he was playing the ultimate game by destroying the Infinity Stones, ensuring what he did would be inevitable.
I am inevitable.
But that, first of all, brought the Avengers to his doorstep, and seeing that the Avengers had no chance of winning against Thanos in this timeline, the Avengers were forced to alter the time itself. If done right, this theme gives the stories their epic depth and meaning. This is not a bad thing. You may even call it foreshadowing. But that word, I think, should be kept for smaller things within a story. There is a very famous principle of cinema called Chekhov's gun, which essentially boils down to this. If you see a loaded gun in the first act of a drama, it must go off at a later point in the story. So when Loki reminds us, I have lost track of how many times I have been killed, this is foreshadowing his eventual killing. But that is another matter. Coming back to Loki and the trope of creating one's own demons, Sylvie, Loki's time-displaced, gender-swapped version from a variant timeline, she is hell-bent on destroying the TVA. And why? Because the TVA themselves abducted her from a time and place when she was an innocent child, forcing her to take a path of violence, which she would have never taken if she were left undisturbed in her own life. Have you watched the movie Looper? The entire movie is based on a similar premise. And same with Deadpool 2. Anyway, so as I was saying, the Time Variance Authority essentially created the Sylvie that we know now. The TVA manages to get a hold of Loki and Sylvie from where we last saw them at the end of the previous episode, at the apocalyptic end of the planet Lamentis 1. Loki's bond with Sylvie was given some time to brew, both in Lamentis and in the holding cells of the TVA. Now, if someone has to realize that they are not alone, that they belong with someone else, what better way to facilitate this than hammering them again and again that they are alone and destined always to be alone? Obviously, the mind opposes what has been told a million times. So that is what happened when Mobius engaged Loki in a time loop as a punishment. That punishment brought him to realize that he was not actually destined to be alone. Exactly the opposite of what that punishment was supposed to do. Back in episode 2, when Sylvie had enchanted 2 of the TVA agents, the ripple effects of that caused a disruption inside of TVA. People doubting the reality and losing trust in the TVA, and all that to lead us to the final trope of the episode. You know, the timekeepers, well, whatever they are and whoever they are controlled by, I'm not going to tell you all the details. In their vain attempt to win, the timekeepers ensured that they lost and that their secret was revealed. All the timekeepers had to do was absolutely nothing. Loki and Sylvie were already in custody and destined to be punished or killed or erased. But the timekeepers gave them an opening, an opportunity to be brought in to them in close quarters. And what happened? An altercation, some fights, and then the big reveal. See, this is the final turn of events that got me thinking. It was way too convenient. But thankfully, the biggest twist or reveal, if you can call it, was what happened after the fight, when Loki tried to speak to Sylvie about his realizations in the punishment set by Mobius and about how he had always felt destined to be alone and all that. But then, in another unexpected turn of events, Loki is taken out of the scene. What I liked most about this episode was how it dealt with the cliches. Yes, there are many cliches in the episode, more than the previous episodes. Like there is this oft-repeated dialogue or theme in many movies. The biggest lies are those that you tell yourself. And this theme is nicely used. This dialogue is nicely used here. I love the overall dialogue quality in the show so far. Now, the first 2 episodes of Loki build up to a buddy cop dynamic between Loki and Mobius.
It's a trap.
He's lying. Just playing games. Had me for a sec, Loki. My ears are sharp, too.
Then Sylvie came along and disrupted the dynamic and stole the show.
This isn't about you.
Rise.
Now, as much as we know, by the events of episode 4, the show has finally given up on the dynamic of Loki and Mobius. And they did that with one very nice callback before the end. Loki and Mobius both refer to each other as a friend. That was a good send-off to the dynamic. Although I want more, and probably we will get more. As usual, the visual effects are marvelous in this episode, but I must say this show needed some more work on the action. There is only a short fight scene towards the end of the episode, but that was very lackluster given the epic reveal and the personal moments in the fight. Too many jump cuts for a simple fight scene. I wasn't impressed at all. What I was the most impressed by was the mid-credits scene. Yes, after 3 episodes of uninterrupted credits roll, this episode gave us the first, although I think not the last, mid-credits scene of the show, with a surprise appearance of the veteran actor Richard E. Grant. What he was doing, well, we'll know the details in the next episode. For now, it should be sufficient to refer to the Chekhov's gun. We saw one variant of Loki in the very first episode of the show. It stands to reason that the future episodes will reveal more variants of Loki, isn't it? So folks, how did you feel after watching the latest episode of Loki? Do you agree with my take on the Chekhov's gun principle and the tropes that I mentioned? If you like this video, please do leave a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. And if you don't agree with my opinions or simply wish to speak your mind, jump right down into the comment section and let me know what you think. As always, I'm eagerly looking forward to your comments and feedback. This is all from my side for today. I'll be back next week with my opinions about the next episode, the episode 5 of Loki. Do join me on Discord or other social media platforms from the links in the description box below to have more discussion about Loki and all that is MCU. This is Dr. Abhinav Atul signing off. It is my pride and privilege to be able to connect with you through this video. Namaskar. While you're still on YouTube, how about you check out this video which YouTube thinks you would like, or check out my WandaVision series discussion.